All right, this meeting will now commence at 6:03 p.m. The first order of business is roll call. May we please commence roll call?
Yes, for sure. So to begin, student trustee Bravo. Bravo absent. President Kumar.
Here.
Kumar present. Vice President Ahmed.
Present.
Ahmed present. Treasurer Nia Manuri.
Present.
Nia Manuri present. Chief of Staff Almendras.
Present.
Almendras present. Chairwoman Hamad.
Present.
Hamad present. Chairwoman El Adawi has excused absence. Chairwoman Nadala.
Present.
Nadala present. Chairwoman Ovide.
Present.
Ovide present. Chairwoman Show has excused absence. Speaker Stancheva.
Present.
Stancheva present. Representative Petineo.
Here.
Petineo present. Representative Kazawowski.
Present.
Could you please tell me how to pronounce your name?
Kasovsky.
Kasowski. Okay, thank you so much, Kasowski. Present. Representative Deneibat.
Present.
Deneibat present. Representative Nehi. Representative Jada Nehi.
Present.
Nehi present. Representative Aranda Ortiz.
Present.
So, sorry for that. Aranda Ortiz present. Representative Taylor.
Present.
Taylor present. Representative Abdel Salam.
Present.
Abdel Salam present. Representative Selvarash.
Present.
Selvarash present. Representative B.
Present.
B present. Representative Fernandez.
Present.
Fernandez present. Representative Villa Gomez.
Present.
Villa Gomez present. Representative Hack.
Present.
Hack present. Representative Nguyen. Representative Nguyen.
I see that she's in the Zoom chat, or in the Zoom rather.
Present. Okay. Representative Al Saari.
Present.
Al Saari present. Representative Bilba Sigamani.
Present.
Bilba Sigamani present. Representative Khan.
Present.
Khan present. Representative Malik.
Present.
Malik present. Representative Henry.
Present.
Henry present. Representative Chris Mann.
Present.
Chris Mann present. And Representative Bora.
Present.
Bora present. And that concludes roll call.
All right, thank you. So the next order of business is reading and approval of the minutes. Please take this time to look over the minutes. And Wasan, if you'd like to present. All right, are there any corrections to the minutes?
I have one amendment. Representative by instead of absent should be marked as excused absence.
Okay, so there has been an amendment made that Representative B should be marked as excused absence instead of unexcused. All those in favor of amending the minutes, please say aye.
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 All that oppose, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? Okay. Are there any other corrections to the minutes?
Yes. In when it's to 1 second, I don't know which page is. Towards the end, when we're in new business, resolution 2021 S5803 was not tabled, but resolution 2021 S51000 was tabled. So those should be like changed.
Okay. So there has been an amendment made that instead of saying that, oh, can you remind me the first number? Resolution 2021 S5-803. It says that it was tabled, but it was actually the resolution before it, Resolution 2021 S5-1000 that was tabled. So there has been a motion to correct that mistake. Um, Everybody in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
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 Does anybody I'm sorry. Does anybody say nay? Anybody abstain? All right, this amendment has passed. Any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, if there are no corrections, then the minutes will stand as approved. The next order of business is reading and approval of the agenda. Please take this time to read over the agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda? All right, if there are no corrections to the agenda, then the agenda will stand as approved. The next order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, if there is no public comment, then we can move on to the next order of business, guest speakers. So Anshu, would you like to present our first guest speaker?
Yeah, thank you, Daisy. Malachi Hall is the president of the Omega Delta fraternity. He met with members of the Treasury Committee, kind of proposing a blood drive that they're working on and kind of wanted some help from USG. So I'll let Malachi Hall present his PowerPoint.
Thank you guys, and thanks for having me here. 1 second, let me see if I can share my screen. Cool, 1 second. All right, can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So my name is Malachi Hall. I'm president of Omega Delta Gamma Chapter Fraternity at UIC, and my proposal is for funds for our blood drive. This is going to be our third annual blood drive. Just some background on it. Our first annual one was in October 2019, and we collected 30 units of donations, which can potentially save about 90 lives. Each unit can save, according to American Red Cross, about 3 lives. The second annual blood drive was last semester, November 2020, and we collected 31 units in this one, which can potentially save 93 lives. Usually most blood drives only get 5 to 15 donations or people that just show up, and that doesn't include which donations are able to be used. The numbers that you see right now are just the donations that were able to be used. About 35 people came for the first one, but 5 of them were ineligible to have their blood be used for donations. And it was the same for last semester. It was about 34, 33 people that actually came, but only 31 were eligible. And this is just some of the impact that we have. Our main goal is to show up and show out to any philanthropic event. And this goes beyond just, oh, hey, I'm here, let me get my community service hours, but we actively push for our brothers to learn about what we're doing, like just learn about history about, for example, the blood drive. So if anyone asks us any questions, any of our bros, we can readily be able to answer rather than, oh, I don't know the answer to that question, and be clueless to what's actually happening and what's the goal of the event that we're doing. All of our active brothers have a well-known social media presence, and by that I just mean that they're pretty active on social media. They usually just follow people from UIC. So most of the people that see them on social media are UIC students and peers. The chronic use of our alumni ensures better success for our events. Since we're a smaller frat and we're about just 20 years old, we can easily talk to the founders of our fraternity and just get better influence on what we're trying to do, and just better insight on different aspects of events that we're trying to do. The UIC community has become more active in our events, as they can see like the passion that we do and the drive that we have through our community. Aside from just philanthropic events like blood drives, we also help out in the Pilsen community through one of our alumni who has a non-for-profit. I could go into that another time, but that's just another one of the impacts that we have on the community as a whole, aside from UIC. What we need from the funds that we're requesting: the Illinois room was used for our last blood drive, and the rent cost $500. Last time that they didn't really charge us, or they didn't charge us at all, just because no one was really using the Illinois room. And we told them that we're not using any of the equipment, none of the electronics or anything of the sorts, and we just need a space for people to donate. And the second thing that we were requesting last year or last semester, we gave out shirts as an incentive. Since we get an average, as you can see, about 30 people who are eligible to donate, or just 30 people in general who come. 30 shirts would cost $200, and we would put in for half of that, and we're just requesting $100 for that. And thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
All right, thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question actually. So how does it, I'm not sure if I missed it, but how does the blood drive work? Is it your members who donate or like the community?
It's the community. So we partner up with American Red Cross every year, and we open it up to the UIC community and just to the public as well, just surrounding neighbors who live in Little Italy or Pilsen or something of the sort. Sometimes our bros donate if they're eligible and they know that they're eligible, but for the most part, most of our donations come from UIC community.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So what was the design of the t-shirt? What would that look like?
So pretty much the t-shirt would just have who's co-sponsoring the event. So it would be USG, clearly us since we're hosting the event, and American Red Cross. And it would just say like Omega Delta 3rd Annual Blood Drive 2021 in the front, and just have like a list of sponsors on the back with the appropriate logos.
Okay, thank you. And where could we sign up for the blood drive?
It's scheduled to be April 17th, and I believe that's a Wednesday. We were about to start making flyers soon and start promoting in about a couple weeks. We usually start promoting about a month before just to give people time to think about it, because some of the requirements are you can't have like a tattoo or piercing within a certain time frame of the blood drive. So once it becomes available, everybody's gonna post it, and I believe I was told that USG might also promote it too, so I would send the flyer and the information for that to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Is the room reserved?
The room, they said it's open that day, but we can't really reserve it until we put like a down payment down. Is what the meeting and reservations told me.
But they told you that it was gonna be available, right? Because I think the Illinois room is being used to get COVID tested, so I just want to make sure that it's available.
Yeah, they told me it was available that day.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So just a point of information, they are now putting up all of the events that are occurring in SCE on the website of CSI, I think. So in case anybody wanted to like check out and see what all was happening like in the Illinois room or other spaces, like, you can always go there.
All right, anything else?
If you're going to send the flyers and information, I wrote down my email in the chats. So you can send it to me and I can help you promote this event.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for your time. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can leave if you'd like. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you as well. I got a chapter meeting, so it was nice for you guys to have me, and I'll see you guys later.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you. All right. So the next order of business is ex officio reports. May we please have the report of the advisor?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. I want to take this time to share information about three things. First, a reminder about the walking safety escort services. So members of the UIC community can access both in-person and virtual walking escort services throughout the spring semester as an alternative to walking alone at night. In regards to campus escort services, they can be scheduled 24/7 by calling 312-996-2830, approximately 10 to 15 minutes before you plan to depart. A member of student patrol or a police officer will be dispatched to escort you. It can also be requested through the Safe Commute button in the UIC Safe app. That is information regarding walking safety escort services. Secondly, I want to bring to your attention a virtual education job fair that is taking place this Wednesday, March 3rd from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. The education virtual job fair will bring employers from around the world who are seeking candidates who are in education, social work, and other majors interested in working in education settings. For more information, please check out their website at uic.joinhandshake.com. Again, that's uic.joinhandshake.com. Lastly, I want to bring to your attention information about the student elections again. So the student elections Meet the Candidates / debate will be occurring next Monday, March 8th from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. You can attend the event by going on to go.uic.edu/student elections to register. You have to register in order for you to attend the debate that is occurring next Monday, March 8th from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. And also, online voting for the candidates will begin Tuesday, March 9th at 9 a.m. And that information is also listed on go.uic.edu/student elections. That concludes my report. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? All right, thank you.
Daisy, I think you're muted right now because we can't hear you.
Oh,
There you
sorry. So sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you, Dre. The next order of business is officer reports. May we please have the report of the president?
Yeah, thanks, Daisy. I hope everyone's doing well and had a good weekend. I'll go kind of quickly because I know we have like 8 resolutions on the docket today. But Matthew and I got a chance to meet with Dr. Socheno to talk about open education resources. We put together our final proposals on this reading week with Hannah and Courtney Washington. I was part of like the Mental Health Coalition. And so we're going to be submitting that today as part of our items on the docket for new resolutions. We had like the final meeting of the Mental Health Task Force. We met with CAN to strategize about some of our initiatives going forward about preventing sexual violence on campus. I had a chance to meet with the oversight subcommittee members to talk about like a civilian oversight committee for UICPD. I got a chance to meet with Vice Chancellor Rex Tolliver and talk about a whole number of different things, everything from like our emergency housing proposal, which he agreed to support through funding, as well as agreed to kind of help us like navigate some of the process with campus housing. He talked to us about like how he'd be willing to like help fund some of the work that we're doing with like purchasing menstrual hygiene products, but he has a couple of questions for us, so we had to figure out. He's like scheduled like Bayan and I to join his directors meeting next week to talk about our proposal for increased community standards in preventing gender-based violence training for students across campus. And then he also talked, and this is like particularly interesting for folks who are interested in like working on like the bidet project and other sorts of things. But he mentioned that SEE is increasing the number of gender-neutral bathrooms that are available as part of a sort of larger like renovation project. I asked about the bidets, and he said that it seems like it might be like difficult or even impossible to do something like this in SEE. So maybe to just think about a different location where there's less demand. I also attended the student leader roundtable on Friday, which was organized by the Student Activities Board. And I had a chance to go to the African American Advisory Council Town Hall, which occurred last weekend. And we talked about a whole like number of different things, or like there were several like student speakers there, as well as like the chancellor spoke, as well as like community, like a couple of community leaders, like reverends, also got a chance to speak there. It was really interesting, and just to kind of like give some highlights, like there was a couple of statements like by the chancellor on some of the initiatives that they're pursuing for increasing racial equity, including like sort of like increased hiring of like Black mental health professionals, like more scholarships for students, expansive funding to the AAAN, redesigning the African American Cultural Center, among several other points that I've listed here. And there was also like a sort of like response letter read by the Black Grad Student Association president, Alexis Grant. And so I have attached that here. And then I have also put together like a resolution for USG to sign on to this letter. And if you yourself are interested in individually signing on, there's also a link to that in the resolution. That is everything. The last point that I also wanted to make is that we're still having the student-led town hall this week on Thursday, the sort of event session hosted by ourselves as well as the Student Survey Coalition. So please, if you are available Thursday afternoon at 6 p.m., do take time to attend that and get a chance to sort of talk about both your experiences this semester throughout the pandemic and everything, but also a chance to sort of share, strategize, and organize with other students who have faced a lot of the similar difficulties that we're going through. Thank you so much, and I yield the rest of my time to questions.
Are there any questions? All right. If there are no questions, then the president's report will be filed. Next, we have the report of the vice president.
Hi, can I share my screen real quick? Awesome. I want to, again, just kind of want to ask everyone like one good thing that they did over the weekend. Just drop it in the chat again. I really liked hearing everyone's responses last week. But yeah, so the survey is about at 670 responses, which is good. We're going to continue to keep pushing that, but we already started looking at the data, as you guys saw last week. We also had our like final big group task force meeting with Dean Deanna and Dean Kashima from like the west side of campus. And so we presented our data there and we presented our recommendations as well. And so they're supposed to get back to us with their proposed solution sometime soon. And then also putting forward like a document of all of our data into one document, into like one PDF with all the short responses as an appendix and sharing that with Hermes specifically, because some of those short responses are really detailed and that they really talk about some of the glaring aspects of mental, like lack of mental health resource availability on campus. And then also just working to get IRB approval for the results of our survey and understanding what data of ours can be published. And then, like I said, continuing conversations with Dr. Hermes, because thankfully at our last meeting, he kind of was able to more clearly tell us like what the barriers are for him in terms of our proposed solutions. And so kind of just working together to brainstorm what can be done going forward. And then on the same vein, catching up with Vice Chancellor Rex Tolliver once again about specific recommendations we had spoken about prior. So I'll have more updates from that for next week. And then, like Lawson said, the Reading Week proposal. And then we also had a meeting with Sophia Hamilton at the DRC and also the Disability Cultural Center. And that was a really like eye-opening meeting to understand that essentially accommodations for mental health can be made through the DRC. It's a matter of kind of having a conversation with them and understanding what accommodations they're allowed to make. And then obviously there are some things just by nature of them maintaining the integrity of like their center and their accommodation letters that they can't necessarily make accommodations for, but kind of looking into different avenues to ensure that professors are understanding of different circumstances that students have, namely one of them kind of being the policy of like having to show a death certificate or some kind of like funeral arrangements for if a family member is to pass away and that affects your schoolwork somehow. So like that's one of the things that we kind of wanted to look into further. And that's not something they can do because it's so short term, but there are other ways to go about it. And then, like I said, those upcoming meetings with the two I mentioned, and then also just kind of looking at the menstrual hygiene vending machines and having the contact facilities and also other departments about potentially helping fund or just kind of sustaining those machines themselves. And then this is to be updated and our docket is too full for this week, but hopefully next week that's something we can take a look at. And yeah, any questions for me?
Are there any questions? All right, thank you, Hannah. If there are no questions, the Vice President's report will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Treasurer.
Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing good. So I'm still working on the logistics on how to transfer the $10,000 in funding for the UIC Open Textbook Program. I set up our business manager from the Dean of Students office to the library business manager, so they're kind of just talking it out, and I'll keep you guys updated. We'll be voting on the UIC Chess Club resolution today. And the Treasury Committee met with the Sustainability Department on February 26th to see how USG can contribute. and they kind of presented electric scooter docking stations that they wanted across campus. They gave us a little map. So like when I invite her to a meeting, we can kind of discuss where we want these um, docks to be and kind of like branding it in USG and uh, ensuring that our presence is known on campus. I met with the Omega Delta president and he's requesting funds for blood drive. So I'll present a resolution on that for the Illinois room cost and then half the cost of the t-shirts. I'll be meeting with the Pre-Law Society and Red Shoes Review at UIC to discuss funding sometime this week. And I also had an idea that I'll be working with the PRC committee to kind of brand the things that USG purchased in the past, like the sleeping pods and SCE and the skateboard docks by all the lecture centers. They're not really branded and they're kind of just a plain color, so no one really knows who put them there. So I think we should start branding everything that we buy so people know that USG is kind of has a presence on campus. I also included a budget breakdown just to kind of update everyone on how the budget's doing and how much money we have left. This isn't all the spent money, but it is all the money from all the past resolutions that are going to be spent. This includes both semester stipends, although they haven't been paid out yet. We can't really use that money for anything else. So the total spent is 46,883, and then we kind of have 60,000 remaining. And then another idea I kind of had, which isn't in my report, is I know a lot of you guys kind of wanted USG to get everyone dinner, and I kind of did some research on this and found that Uber Eats has like a voucher program for like organizations. So we could kind of like buy vouchers and send it out to all the members. So if anyone has any ideas on kind of like the price limit it should be set at and kind of around what time you guys would want us to work on that, I'm open to any of your ideas. I'll yield the rest of my time for questions.
Are there any questions? All right. If there are no questions, then the treasurer's report will be filed. Next, we have my report. So first of all, this is not really in my report, but I think I might be getting sick. So if my voice is sounding a little weird, or if you see me like coughing with my mic off, then that might be why. Sorry about that. But thank you to everybody who came to the Leadership Summit last week. I know it was a little bit on a short notice, so thank you if you were able to make it. I really, really enjoyed the activities that we did. And for you guys who weren't present, we did mock resolutions, which was basically like a fake resolution that we made about having um, like we were discussing if we should spend $75,000 of USG's budget to get a chocolate fountain in the middle of the quad. So that was our mock resolution, and we had a great debate over it. And then we had another resolution that was about cabinet members' stipends, and we were looking at increasing those exponentially, starting with $10,000 for the president and then going down by 1,000 for each cabinet member. And obviously that's fake. It's not. I wish it was, but it's not a real resolution. So the reason why we did it was to kind of become more comfortable with voting different ways. People were asked to vote a certain way, so they could either yeah, that was a fake resolution. It's not real. Um, but people were asked to vote a certain way, so they couldn't necessarily vote the way that they wanted to. We kind of forced them to vote a certain way so that we could facilitate discussion. Um, and it was pretty great to hear both sides, to hear so many opinions, and to hear your reasons. Um, it was honestly so much fun, as you guys can probably see in the chat. And yeah, to those of you who were not able to attend the summit, when we have our individual meetings, you and I will be arguing against each other for one of those resolutions, just to make sure that you're also able to, argue a point. So that's not true, Bayan. Okay, anyhow. Um, And I think the takeaway from that was um don't be afraid to voice your opinion, even if it's different than the majority, because as we saw in the mock resolution activity, people were still very respectful, even if they had different opinions. So I'm hoping we could bring that to USG. And yeah. All right. So then the next thing is I would like to meet with every representative individually. Those meetings will be mandatory. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, I came to the summit. Why should I meet with you? Those meetings will only be 15 minutes long. Those representatives who were not able to attend the leadership summit, most of them will end up having a 30-minute meeting with me. And that's because we would need to go over what we talked about in the summit, as well as the general, how is your semester going type of questions. Um, Everybody will be meeting with me for a different period of time. So I have sent all the emails by now. Everybody should have received an email from me. Some people will be meeting with me for 45 minutes. Some people will be meeting for 30 minutes. Some people will be meeting with me for 15 minutes. So check the email that I sent you. It says on there for how long our meeting should be. And I have I also gave you the link to sign up on an Excel sheet that I made. So let's see. The meetings will happen next week, not this week, next week between Tuesday and Friday. And I also gave my availability for Saturday. But I'm trying to keep those to myself. So unless no other time works for you, please don't sign up for Saturday. And if absolutely no other time works for you but Saturday, then sign up for Saturday. And if none of the times work, including Saturday, then please let me know and I'd be happy to find another time that works. So if you sign up for one time slot, but then you would like to change it, you can do that by next Monday. So let's say you scheduled a meeting with me for, Tuesday at 5 o'clock or something like that. And then something pops up and now you can't make Tuesday at 5 o'clock anymore. That's fine. You can change it no later than next Monday. You don't have to let me know if you change it. However, next Monday, or rather next Tuesday, I will start looking at those meeting times, and I will make sure that I'm available for those times and that I'm actually in the Zoom room. So if you change your meeting time like 30 minutes before you're supposed to meet with me, then I'm probably not going to see that unless you send me a message. So yeah. So feel free to change your time slot up until next Monday. And then after that, if you need to change it, let me know. All right. So about the bidet initiative, I went to the committee meetings of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and Campus Life Committee. Honestly, it feels like it's been so long ago, but it was actually just last week. Um, Thank you guys, both of your committees and the committee chairs. Thank you for being willing to help me. And then Bayan said that MSA is already working on something similar. I'm not really familiar with what MSA is or what they're doing, so I'm hoping Bayan can tell you more about it. Matthew and I will be meeting next week to talk about the strike policy and the handbooks. I'm actually not sure if it's next week or this week. But we'll be meeting and talking about that. And then lastly, I met with Kayla and I taught her how to create a meeting packet. She actually made the meeting packet pretty much on her own. So good job, Kayla. You did amazing. The packet is, you couldn't even tell that it's made by someone different. So great job. And next week, Kayla will be making the meeting packet entirely on her own without my help. And then she will also be chairing the meeting. So, yeah. And then there's just one more thing that I didn't include in my report because I think it came up today. Um, so for the new representatives, I know I sent you guys an invitation to Box, and some of you have told me that you can't really access it. I'm not too sure why that is. I know you guys were not the only ones with that same issue. A lot of people had that issue last semester. I tried to reach out to the ACCC. They didn't really get back to me. So I don't know what to do from here on. I would just maybe see if you can reset your password. Other than that, I don't know what else to tell you. Um, yeah, it might be because you need a UIC account. So maybe try that. Thank you, Arthur. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I know I
Uh,
just see a lot of
I
you.
don't have a question, but for the box, I wasn't able to access it last semester. But you shouldn't try to access it with your UIC username and password. You should like create a new account and then give the same details like UIC. You shouldn't just like go and like access it first. Just click create a new account and then it works.
Okay, well, just be mindful that I invited your UIC emails to it. So it's your UIC email that you need to make an account with if you don't have one already. I don't know if the accounts come pre-made or if you need to make one. I honestly don't remember. Try it out. Let me know what happens, and we'll just go from there. Any other comments or questions? All right, go sign up for the meetings if you haven't already. I sent you the email. All right, and the speaker's report will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Chief of Staff.
Hello, everyone. So I found this quote from Abraham Lincoln. It says, "I am a slow walker, but I never walk back." Um, yeah. So last week, I met with Dr. Swatseno with San to discuss future plans for the OER program. Some things we talked about was like combining the easiness of homework submission that these access codes provide to professors. Um, and we talked about like a department level policy to implement open source resources. And yeah, I'll be like starting to meet with department heads this week and next week. And we also talked about like an OER program recognition award in which winners will be selected by USG. Dr. Swachena is looking into a way on how we can get this award um, recognized by UIC, like more official. And yeah, so the textbook affordability national report has been released last week on Wednesday/Thursday. The hyperlink is there, but I have a few images at the bottom of my report to talk about that. And yeah, we had lobby days on the 25th and 26th. We met with education staffers for Representative Garcia, Representative Schwalski, and Representative Quigley. And on the 26th, we met directly with Representative Bustos. We just talked about doubling the Pell Grant and including students in the stimulus bills. Those were some of our asks. And we also talked about textbook affordability. And for the most part, they were very receptive of our asks, especially with doubling the Pell Grant because it's already on, President Biden's agenda for education. So it's just a matter of, like pushing them to continue supporting doubling the Pell Grant and such. And yeah, so this week is Open Education Week. So Illinois Park has many action blocks and events for this week. If you would like to participate in these events and like help be a part of the movement, please contact me. Yeah, and I'm still looking into how we can get a listserv for the USG. I contacted our advisors about that. I believe um, Dre is contacting the CSI on that. And also this week I'm going to be creating executive handbooks with the executive board members, just so then future executive board members can, look back to this if they have any questions about their roles. So yeah, you can see the images down there. This is coming from our report. So 86% of students who experience food insecurity during the pandemic report skipping a textbook. And I kind of looked at this like at the other side of that, 14% of those students also bought the textbook. So that means they're using the money for other things other than paying for their house bill or paying for food and such. And so yes, 65% overall of students are skipping out on buying or renting a textbook, and 79% of students report being impacted in some way by the pandemic, such as losing their job or getting COVID, or they have to transfer schools just because they can't afford going to the school they're currently going to. So yeah, the links I have there are the same links, the textbook affordability petition and the double Pell petition. And I also include our link tree in there, which should have other petitions we're holding. I believe also you can find more information about the events we have for this week. But yeah, again, if you're interested in being a volunteer, please contact me. Thank you. And I yield for questions.
I have a question for you, Matthew. So at the end, you said that you're working on the listserv for USG and you're working with advisors. What exactly is the listserv that you're working on? Like, what is it?
Yeah, so it's a student listserv so that USG can be able to, communicate with the student body. We used to have one a few years ago, but we've been revoked of the privilege.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah. I know Bayan used campus groups to send the newsletter. Could we use campus groups to send as our lister? I'm not sure how it works.
So I believe campus group is only for like you still have to add students to that. It's not like the whole student body. Is that right?
Yeah, like we would have to manually add students to our contacts list, but I'm pretty sure CSI could do something like have access to something more, to add the student body. But I also know that campus groups is for student organizations, so we might not be able to reach students who are not like involved.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. If there are no more questions, then the report of the Chief of Staff will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone. Let me know if like my voice cuts off because my internet is bad. But I met with Irina from, I hope I said her name right, but she's from the counseling center, and we talked about the podcast initiative. I was told that Hannah met with her before, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to confirm that. But yeah, we're trying to involve the mental health coalition with them so that we could have something. She wants to launch the podcast sometime in March, and towards like the beginning of March. And she actually reached out to me today. We're supposed to create like a topic, so we're supposed to choose a topic for them and then have someone to be in the podcast over email. Oh, okay, I got you.
I just think it's easier to like respond out loud, but basically, we like chatted over email, and I basically was trying to see if she wanted people from the coalition to be a part of it, but I think she wants more like personal interactions as opposed to like, oh, like you guys have been working on mental health related stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually asked her about that. She like mentioned to me the same point, but she just like wants someone who's interested in the topic more than just someone like, she was just basically saying, don't like bring anyone you know, bring me someone who is interested in the topic. And I specifically asked her, do they have to have like experience with any like mental illness, or do they have to have been to a therapist? And she said no.
Okay, yeah,
So we can talk more about it. Yeah, okay, cool. So our committee will also be creating the flyer for this. And also, if any of you guys are like interested in being in the podcast, let me know. And I've worked on the Title IX resolutions. We still need to revise them. Hopefully, we can present them next week. And that was with Wasson and Sarah. And Sarah has also created the job description for the Transformative Justice Coordinator. So we're still also revising that. We finally released the newsletter through campus groups, and I think it was a good um, a good step. I did receive a lot of good feedback, and we featured the Latino Culture Center. So if you know of like an organization that wants to be featured in the newsletter, let me know. And like make sure that organization signs up for the newsletter. I can share the link in the chat in a second. So we have the meeting rescheduled with Tanya for our Know Your Rights series event. We have been in contact over email, but pretty much it's done. It's scheduled for March 11 at 5 p.m. We have the flyer released. We just need to like finalize things with her. And we had our committee meeting, which Daisy joined, and we welcomed Dania as a new committee member. Yeah, so I did contact MSA about the Days initiative, and they told me that UIC is in the process of making wudu stations. So wudu is basically a certain act we have to perform before we pray, like 5 times a day, right? So it's just a certain act. We like wash our hands and our body and everything. So they're in that process, which is obviously like a huge step. And I was like so glad that they're doing this, but it's a little different from having the days. So they're gonna give me a contact person who's in charge of the renovation, and we can contact them and see if it's possible. And we can probably avoid SCE because Watson mentioned that a Vice Chancellor Tolliver is like kind of like wants us to avoid the area. But maybe like we could have more conversation with him. I don't know. We'll work on that. The Interfaith Conversation Hour, we have scheduled it for March 18. We're just waiting on Cornerstone to get back to us. But the Hindu Student Council and MSA has confirmed, and Nina will be creating the flyer for that. We're preparing for the American Culture Center Town Hall. So that's happening tomorrow, and it's regarding the MENA campaign. Administration, like from people from administration will be there. So it's a huge step for them. And we will be there, like my committee members and I. I will be speaking. They specifically mentioned that they would love for Wasson to be in the town hall, and I was like, wow, thanks. Like they literally were gonna give him the spot instead of me to like talk instead of me. So I'm like, that's great. But yeah, Watson, if you want to be there and if you want to say a couple of words, that's like they have a spot for you. And if you guys would like to register, this is the link. I met with Matthew on Friday and we discussed the AC initiatives. And the last thing is just one announcement: the Palestine's Children Relief Fund organization at UIC, they're having a pre-health panel. It's on March 4th from 6:30 to 7:30, and the Zoom link will be provided in their Instagram bio. And that's their Instagram link. And yeah, so for our Be Aware campaign, if you know of an underrepresented organization and you would like to raise awareness about it, or you want to contact them to contact us to raise awareness about it, email me so I could like email you the document that they have to fill out. It's really nothing big. It's very similar to what you saw on our Instagram. If you saw the post we made for Relief for Yemen. So just like quick facts about the organization, why it was created, and why UIC students are particularly interested in such organization. And like if they are collecting donations for any national organizations, also they can give us the. And that's it. I yield for questions.
Are there any questions? All right, if no questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Legislative Affairs Committee Chair. So Dahlia is not present at the moment. Is anybody reading her report?
Yes, I am. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a okay Monday. But to kind of report on what Dahlia has been saying, so we are working on the sexual assault action item. So that was actually the meeting was moved to farther in March. We were gonna have it last week, but they canceled on us, which is okay. We're trying to get it moved up a little bit earlier, but you know it is what it is. And then in terms of the MHC meeting, the final meeting with Dean Indiana and Director Herms was already made, and then the meeting with the sociology professor to understand that IRB protocol needs is going to be made. And then she also met with Matthew today, so they talked about the handbook and then the updates. And then in terms of the committee, we actually didn't meet last week because we were focusing on our midterms. And then something that I wasn't able to tell her, but in terms of my event with ROTC, I got the good to go to have my event on April 29th for the sexual assault one with all the ROTC Army cadets, because of we've been working on this for I think a year and we kept on getting pushed, but hopefully this semester is the semester. But that's all I have to say. If there are any questions, please reach out to Dahlia, and that's about it.
Thank you, Ms. T. So unfortunately, Ms. is not able to answer questions because this is Dahlia's report, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Dahlia. All right, and the report of the chairwoman of the Legislative Affairs will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Public Relations Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. So first off, I've completed into uploading meeting number 5 on YouTube. I have not attended the board meeting today because it was rescheduled. I met with Wasan on Thursday, and we talked about how the Title IX project that PRC has been working on in the fall semester will be handed towards UIC's Title IX coordinators, and they'll be the main ones who will be working on that project. And Wasan also mentioned a new project that he'd like PRC to lead in, which is doing an end of the year recap on Instagram and Facebook. I've scheduled a meeting with the LAF president tomorrow and discuss advertising strategies. And then I've assigned my committee members some tasks that they should do to help us out on our initiatives. As for in progress, the weekly GBM recap post is still going on. I'm designing Anshu's locker initiative. He's getting me in contact with the library personnel so we can talk about it more. We're restructuring the USG website, and as for the promotional item initiative that's being voted tonight is the final read of the resolution, and after tonight, I'll file an RFF. Note, I've added new things to the resolution, which is an updated amount in apparel and also pop sockets. I yield the rest of my time for questions.
Are there any questions? I'm really excited about the pop sockets. Thank you for adding those.
Oh,
yes.
You're gonna like them a lot. So they're for your phone and also for your car. So 2 in 1.
How do you add it to your car?
I think like the little vent thingies.
Oh, I see. Oh, it has the vent thing.
I think so. Yeah.
I love you. I would definitely love to get one of those. I would love one of anyhow. We can talk more about that during the resolution. Thank you, Aitana. That's really exciting. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. If there are no more questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Public Relations Committee will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Student Affairs Committee Chair.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Last week on Thursday, I met with Matthew and discussed the progress of the work I'm doing. And something that we spoke about specifically was the online to in-person class transition. And Matthew brought the brilliant idea of installing air disinfectants in the different classrooms, which I thought was amazing. I didn't know you could have that. And for the request to have professors turn in closed captionings would be part of a general ask I believe he's working on to be sent to the college deans. And just to go back to the online to in-person learning transition, so in the College of Pharmacy where I work, they had like a small scale task force of students going around to put social distancing signs in specific classrooms and on the different chairs to ensure that people didn't sit down on it and like block the barriers, and installing hand sanitizer stations and like Lysol wipes at every classroom. So I thought this would be a good idea to kind of have not just over in the medical schools where they were having in-person classes, I think earlier on, but something we can do like across campus, like even on East Campus with specific classrooms. And something Matthew told me was Lysol wipes killed the coronavirus, and I didn't know that. So that was interesting. With the Get Vaccinated campaign, I'm going to go ahead with this, and I'm actually meeting with Bayern tomorrow to help with creating a survey to get an idea of the student body's reactions to the COVID-19 vaccine, and kind of ignore the step 1, step 2 thing I wrote there because I have a more concrete plan now. But like the first thing is to like survey students and then find out what colleges might be interested in, like, you know, working with us for this Get Vaccinated campaign. But that's not really necessary. But after that, the next thing is to create marketing like materials, which would be like an interactive fact sheet. And I think a really good software for this is Canva. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but Canva is amazing. And for that, we could have the USG, UIC Live, and other, I guess, campus organizations and colleges post whatever is created on this specific account. And for the interactive fact sheet, I was looking at the Illinois Department of Public Health website, where they have this really great Q&A for vaccine questions. And it's kind of dull, it's very boring to look at, but obviously we can, you know, take some of the information there and make it like appealing to students. And we can find out if we can have a table outside the vaccination centers that can, you know, have I got vaccinated stickers or pins or ice lollies or whatever. And hopefully the USG can fund, you know, getting stickers and pins like that. And the main like reason for doing this is because reward is always an incentive to do things. And let's see what else. In terms of the on-campus internships, so I just need to follow up the career advisors to get a list of newly updated on-campus internships, because I've got to constantly update the spreadsheet, because that was one of the major concerns, having an up-to-date spreadsheet. But yes, I think that's it for me. Enjoy your week ahead, enjoy the longer daylight time and warm weather, and I yield for questions.
Are there any questions? All right, if there are no questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Student Affairs Committee will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Campus Life Committee Chair. So Michelle is also not present today. Is anybody reading her report?
Yes, hello, I am. Hi, guys. So we just want to start off by saying that we hope everyone has a good week and does well on their midterms. It's going to be a good couple of weeks, I'm sure. Michelle met with the Commuter Resource Center, and so what came out of that is that we learned that USC is partnering with an app called Miles to Share. It's kind of like Uber. It's a carpool service. You don't make money from it, but you are able to take other students with you to campus. And we'll be receiving more information on the program soon, just to be made into an infographic and frequently asked questions. And we hope to have that distributed via social media and the newsletter. Then the commuter student informational session is just a session that they're running. It'll be answering student questions about the services that the Commuter Resource Center provides. And it's aimed for after finals, but before the summer session starts, just so that people are able to actually get to it. Then the UIC Dining Hall Environmental Survey is something that Me did. She made it because she realized that there was a huge issue with what's going on in the dining hall with waste and everything like that. So she made that. Me, if you want to post that in the chat, feel free. And then Daisy came to our committee meeting to discuss the bidet initiative. She and we will be working with Bayan's committee to research possible options for bidet installation and costs. And we're looking at partnering with some other organizations to split the costs and make it less expensive overall. The Student Mental Health Coalition meetings are going very well. We just finished our last one up. Hannah just talked about that a little bit. And we shared data at that meeting, and we have a couple more meetings with Joseph Hermes, who is the main person at the counseling center, and a few other people who are really interested in the data that we had. But that's everything. I would love to answer questions for you if I can, but I'm not sure how helpful I could be, so I would probably email Michelle.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Quentin is right. If you guys have any questions, please send a message to Michelle. And with that, the report of the chairwoman of the Campus Life Committee will be filed next. Oh, okay. The next order of business is old business. So first, we have Resolution 2021-S5-1000. This was actually tabled last week. So we need to vote in order to be able to bring it back and look at it today. So all those in favor of bringing Resolution 2021-S5-1000 to the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? All right, so we can bring this resolution back to the table. Hannah, would you like to present this?
Yeah, this is the same thing that was presented last week, right? So we basically just have to do different amendments to kind of have it match the expectations of what everyone was talking about last week. So do you guys want me to read it again, or should we just go straight into it to save time?
Please read it.
Okay. So this resolution is the Bonfire and USG liaison. Chief sponsor was myself. So whereas the undergraduate student government recognizes Bonfire as an independent news source for UIC students and associates, whereas the USG body this year has focused heavily on increasing the presence and understanding of our body towards the general population, whereas the body recognizes the strength in forging a relationship between the two organizations, then let it be resolved that the USG handbook will include a position titled Bonfire Liaison, who is responsible for sharing information regarding progress on resolutions and initiatives with the writers of Bonfire and can assist in writing as well. Let it further be resolved that a representative will identify their interest in holding this position when applying to be a representative, and nominations for this position will begin after all the representatives join the body for that semester. Let it be further resolved that the nominated representatives will then apply to Bonfire through their formal recruitment process and be accepted in order to fulfill the role of Bonfire liaison. And so the first kind of proposed amendment that I have is under the first resolution point. It says that it should be in the USG handbook, but I wanted to change that to bylaws to make it more sustainable. And then also add to that point that this position would be kind of depending on what you guys want to call it, like a deputy chief of staff or assistant to the chief of staff. Yeah.
So Hannah, I actually believe that if you would like to add it to the bylaws, we would need to have a specific article and section that you would like to include that part. Sorry. And then you said that we are not sure about what to title this position. So in that case, I would actually encourage you to table this again and then make or actually rewrite the resolutions or sorry, the resolution, and then we can amend it when it's ready, and has all of the needed information in it.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's what I intended. I didn't realize that it was like in the meeting packet again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All good. But yeah, we can, I guess, motion to table this for this week.
All right. There has been a motion to table this. Do you know until when you'd like to table it?
Let's say next meeting. I just have to connect with you, Daisy, about like the nuances of actually amending it.
Yep, awesome. All right. So there has been a motion to table resolution 2021-S5-1000 until next week. All those in favor of tabling this resolution, please say aye.
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 All that oppose, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? All right, the ayes have it. So this resolution has been tabled. Again, I'm so sorry, Hannah. I did not realize that we were supposed to keep it tabled. All right, so the next resolution is 2021-S5-803. So Anshu, would you like to present this?
Yeah, thank you, Daisy. G sponsors are Matthew and I, and then our co-sponsors are Mohammed, Matt, and Megan. So whereas the undergraduate student government has funds allocated for external organizations to help the undergraduate student body, and whereas UIC Chess Club is a UIC affiliated club on campus, and USG seeks to promote student involvement within the student body, and whereas the UIC Chess Club aims to boost solidarity among its members by providing merchandise, and whereas USG will be branded alongside UIC Chess Club on their merchandise, further showing USG's involvement on campus, then let it be resolved that USG will contribute $400 to purchase the UIC Chess Club merchandise.
All right, so does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns about this resolution? Or would anyone like to introduce any amendments to it?
I don't have any amendments, but I do, and I want the opinion of the rest of the body. I do feel that purchasing or funding the merchandise of other organizations might not be the best use of our resources, because if we fund the merchandise of the chess club, then how are we gonna deny the requisition of the other 300 orgs that are in campus, right? And also, UIC CSI has 3 types of funding that orgs can apply to. They have one for having on-campus events, one for conference-related fees, and they have one for students' operational expenses. So they could also be applying to SOFA, which is the one that would be for like merchandise, for merchandise. So I definitely want the opinion of the body if this is something that we should be spending our funds on. And also taking into account that if we do pass this resolution, then we can deny future organizations similar requests.
All right, Bayan and then Kayla.
Yeah, I just want to say that I do think it's a good idea for this semester because it's COVID and a lot of organizations have lost any like fundraising opportunities or anything. But I do think we should consider it like once we go back in person. And another point is that I think it should, like the treasury committee should be in, like they should know the other funding resources on campus for organizations and make sure to inform the organizations of those funding resources, because some students like don't know about it, and ask them if they have reached out to other places for funding before they came to us, and like if there was a response or not. So that's my opinion.
All right, Kayla and then Anshu.
I think it was Daniela that just brought up that point, but thank you for bringing that up because I had no idea that like funding organizations for like their merch, I didn't know that was something that USG didn't normally do. I thought it was like a normal thing or like a regular thing. But I also agree with Bayan. You know, there's not as much funding resources now during COVID, but I did, during their presentation, the one point that I did want to bring up was like and this is like, I don't know how they would get around it or how we would get around it, but they have like 30 official members, but half of them attend regularly, or they have about 15 members coming up to every meeting. So maybe if they had like a fellowship system or something, where like, because what if someone is like a registered member, but they've never been to a meeting technically, or so maybe if, I don't know, this is like not a great thought that I had, but I just it raised the question. So
All right, Anshu, and then Wasan.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo what Brian was saying about how like there's a lack of funds when you're going through the fundraising route, but also like historically many orgs come to the Treasury Committee to ask for funds, but this year it's been different. We've been actively reaching out to different orgs to kind of use the external org budget. If we were not actively reaching out to orgs, the budget would still be unspent basically. And now that there's no in-person events and stuff like that, the spending like the money on events and stuff like that has kind of been diminished, except for like the blood drive and stuff like that, kind of like necessary events. But yeah, I agree with Brian and I agree with Kayla as well, that like it's kind of like a thing just for this semester. I don't think it's sustainable long term, but I do think for like promoting USG, kind of still showing that we're helping external organizations and kind of keeping that presence on campus helps through funding merchandise. And then we haven't really had like an excess amount of organizations asking for funding. We do have a few orgs that are asking for it, but it's not to the point where it's like we can't like accommodate all the orgs.
All right, Wasan, and then Hannah, and then Megan.
Yeah, I also just wanted to mention that last semester they CSI canceled a lot of these funding streams just because again of having to deal with other costs associated with the pandemic at the university as a whole. And because we have this external org funding pool of about $10,000, Vice Chancellor Tolliver agreed to sort of match that. And so they reinstated that fund at CSI for 1 year because of us, because we have this money. And so I'm just running the numbers right now. And so they're asking for about $400 out of the remaining $9,500 that we have left just in that external org funding. So that's looking to be about 4% of what we have that's just dedicated to student org. So like, I think like I'd be definitely fine with it, but I totally agree. Like, yeah, it's important to kind of consider like who we fund and how much of our money like we're able to kind of give away by the end of the year.
All right, thank you. Hannah, and then Megan.
Yeah, I think Wasson kind of mentioned what I was going to say, but I think in making this decision, it would be valuable to kind of just look at like how much of the budget we have left, how much we're planning to spend like the rest of the year in terms of like other initiatives that we have ongoing, and kind of make a decision based off of that.
Okay, Megan.
Oh, sorry. Just like a quick note on student organization, like operating fund allocation. So just like out of the 3 funds, the ones that like they might, I think someone mentioned that they might be best to apply through, that doesn't fund apparel either. So realistically for those organizations that like are looking for us to fund merchandise or like anything of that sort, USG might be like the only source of funding in that type of arena of like items that they're looking to purchase. So I feel like that might also be something to keep in mind, especially right now where I think Wasan mentioned the funding might also just not be there.
Can I hear from Matthew?
Yes, I just want to say why it would be beneficial for USG because, as Kayla mentioned, chess club gets like 15 members each meeting, like constantly, and yeah, we do have like around like 50 members in our club. And how we are distributing this merchandise is that we have a point system, so this merchandise will only go to the members that are really active. And also, our team is actually really good. We're in the semifinals for the collegiate chess league. Like the first round, we knocked out the University of Toronto. But I'm not sure if Canadians are good at chess. But yeah, I mean, we're a very good chess team, and so like, and a lot of these external chess foundations are like coming to us and asking if they would like, to collaborate and like work with us. And so I think in the future, like, if we continue to support them or support the club, they can support us back. And also, the people in the chess club have very high regards for USG. So I'm not sure. I think it looked bad that we have. I told them that we had money for organizations, and if we you know reject their ask, then we just lose that support from this club. That will be very huge, I believe, when things get back in person.
Matt.
Yeah. The one thing I want to talk about is I think it's a dangerous route to start asking organizations to, show us that they ask like these other sources of funding. I know these other sources of funding exist, but we're USD, we're the UIC student government. So if we're like made by the students for the students, and we're telling students to, oh, go ask these other organizations first, and then we can talk. I think it's a bad take on USG as a whole in a lot of ways, because we're, at least the way I understood it, is that we're supposed to be like students' first line of contact, right? But if we're always, pushing organizations to go elsewhere, then I feel like that's a slippery slope at a certain point.
Hannah?
I also wanted to mention, and I don't think this is something that many people are aware of, but the importance of also follow through, because Bonfire last year, I believe there was a resolution that was passed to kind of give money to Bonfire. And even though they're not like an official student org, that was still like a commitment we made. But I know in interactions with them that I've had recently, we never followed through on making that resolution in terms of like actually giving them the money. And so I definitely think like we just have to be really cognizant of also like what we are promising versus suggesting and things like that. And yeah, just the importance of follow through.
All right, Aitana?
So about the comment earlier, what we can do is that if they reach out to us, we can work with them to find resources. And if they absolutely cannot find money from those resources, then we can help them out with our funding. So kind of like a last resort type of thing.
Daniela?
I agree with the fact that it's COVID, and many, or out of the 3 resources, I think only one is being given to students, because the one is for events, and events are not permitted, and the other one is for conferences, and well, conferences are not permitted too because of COVID. So I definitely think that if we could do this for like 1 year, for like the COVID duration, that's okay. But I also think that as a body, we have to be really critical of how we spend our money. Yes, it would be only 4%, and yes, it's an amazing club. But at the same time, we are funded by student fees, and I think I'm sorry, I have asthma, so I'm like suffering right now. But I think we are spending $400 to benefit 20 students, just 20 students, and we're even paying shipping for these 20 students. We are not spending $400 to give something to buy a resource that's gonna support more than 20 students, or like a large significant amount of students. So I think it's really important to be critical. I do understand that it's COVID season, and this might be the only resource that we have for students, but at the same time, we have to think how are our resources better spent for everyone, because we're student funded. But yeah.
Thank you. Quentin?
Yeah, I guess I'm just, my only question is like, we have $10,000. What is the technical name of the $10,000 fund that we have? Like, what is it called? Like, this isn't rhetorical. I genuinely do not know.
It's called the External Organization Fund.
The External Organization Fund. So I guess the question becomes like, what is the goal of that fund for us? Is the goal of that to be able to give to orgs that ask for it? Is the goal of it to, because this is a separate thing from like our norm, our otherwise our otherwise part of our funds. So it's just, what do we want to do with that, and like what is the goal of it, I guess.
I guess I can kind of answer that question. So the external org fund is kind of focused on helping other organizations at UIC, like student clubs. So kind of anything that would help another student club, whether it be like an event, a trip, maybe the semester merchandise, event food, anything where USG partners with another club to host something would fall under the external organization fund.
Sarah?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, I can kind of see both sides of this because, like, on one, I can see, like, yeah, you're only benefiting like a certain number of students, and maybe, like, that might not be so beneficial. But also, I know that a lot of student orgs on campus don't really like appreciate USG. I don't know if that's the right word, or like, you know, they don't like really know about it, or like, they just don't really look at USG as some like an organization that can help them. So maybe if we start this, then people will be looking at us differently in the future, and we might get like a bigger following and stuff like that. So I see how it, like, I can see like very easily both sides, but also like long term, I think this would be good for USG.
Bam?
I think Matthew had his hand raised first.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
I just want to make
Matthew?
sure he got a chance to talk.
Yeah, I would like to mention that we're talking about like not giving $400 to this organization, but we're spending like around $3,000 for ourselves on merchandise. So I think that should say something about our organization if we're spending $3,000 for ourselves, but not $400 for another organization, especially one that is very eager to help support us.
Danny?
I think it's different because most of the money that we're spending is targeted to give. We are having 2 items per person, that is for like us to keep, but all of our other things are for us to give out to promote our organization. No, it's not for like ourselves. We're not gonna keep all the water bottles and stuff like that. So I think it's different because we're giving it to people to recognize our brand, and also it's part of like, it's our organization, so we are able to create that sense of community. While you have a USG polo and you go to a meeting, it's kind of like creating that sense of community that is part of our organization. I'm saying, if we do this for the UIC chess club, which I'm not saying I don't agree, because I think because of COVID that could be something that we could do, but for the future I don't think that this is something we should be doing, because then we have to fund 300 organizations, and we're not going to become the advocates of the students. We're going to become the Adidas apparel shop for students, you know. And it's just really different. Like, if we want to help organizations, that we go and talk to them and we say, okay, how can we advocate for you? But we should, like, we really need to recognize what is our mission, and is to really advocate for a student. And if we're spending this part of our budget on only supporting 20 students, it's not really, for example, when we are supporting another student org and they're putting on an event and we're spending $400 on that event, we're making a collaboration which is helping us promote our brand, and we're also putting on an event that is helping people, that is helping more than 20 students. But this merge is gonna stop there. It's gonna stop at these 20 people. And yes, they might be able to promote our organization, but I think there are so many different ways that we can get more following or get the approval of other organizations without using our funds in this way.
Bayan?
um, what was I gonna even say? So much has been said, but I do understand the point of benefiting a certain group of people. However, this type of fund is dedicated to external org funds. And I do think it's a great way of USG to show support to student organizations. Another thing is I do think that student organizations, I do think it's important for student organizations to reach out to USG for funds, regardless of the type of fund they're asking for, because at the end of the day we still have discussions. So I do want USG to be be involved on campus in that way. Another thing is that I don't think that these funds will stop at those 20 people, because they will have our logo on their t-shirts, right? So wherever they go, people will see, and students will see our logo on their t-shirts. And it's a great way of networking. It's a great way of promoting USG. Another thing for Aitana, I do think you would have to cut out this part from the recording, because I don't think funds, we can't discuss funds to outside people. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, but one last thing, I know I spoke a lot, but one last thing is that we also spend a lot of money, in the past, USG spent a lot of money on the gala. We spent a lot of money on USG socials, and those were just for us. And yes, maybe probably other students were invited, but yeah, keep that in mind. And I do, yeah, and that's it. I'm just
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I was pretty much echoing what Bayan said. This does, and Kayla said in the chat a long time ago that this is another way to advocate for USG. That definitely people will see chess club wearing these shirts and using this merchandise with USG's name on it. So I feel like it is pretty obvious that this is just another way to advertise USG. Also, this actually just came in. Why can't the public see how we use our funds? And is that just a rule that's already been created?
Should I answer that? I'm not sure, but I remember at USG meetings in the past, we were strictly not allowed to discuss that in front of people. So,
but this is different though, because
Sorry, Tana, did you have an answer to the question?
no, I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Can we hear from Daniel?
So I understand the dissent towards why we wouldn't be able to be giving them a sum of this money. I do think, however, I don't remember her name, but when she spoke last week, she really emphasized on the idea that they really are just a recent organization and they're very small, and they really did have to start this from the ground up. So not only are we putting our brand on an important organization that's already left a huge impression, they're very successful, and they have started since 2009. I don't remember the exact year, but 2019 is when really they started from the ground up, and they're already doing so successful. So even though they have 15 regular members, they're still able to maintain themselves. So to brand ourselves on them is not only a good reputation on us, but it could get its word out there to other organizations, not obviously to give them money, but just in general, gives us a better reputation.
All right, Michael?
Yeah, I just kind of view this situation kind of almost like FAFSA. People come and apply for money. If you come early enough, you'll probably have a better chance of getting money from the government. But if you wait too long, the money's out. So that's how I kind of view people asking for money for whatever purpose they may need. It might not be the best choice, but if no one asks for it, you're not going to get it. And it seems like there's a lot still.
All right. Wasan.
Yeah, honestly, like my apologies for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and move the previous question, or as Daisy says, move to end discussion and move to voting on resolution 2021 S5 803.
Okay. So there has been a motion to end discussion and move on to voting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All that are all that are opposed, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for this discussion. I loved how engaged all of you were. So we can move on to voting for Resolution 2021-S5-803. All those in favor of adopting this resolution, please say aye.
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 All that opposed, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? All right, this resolution has passed. Thank you, guys. So we can move on to the next resolution, and then Wasan, I'm gonna need to share my screen. So I think we kind of made a mistake on this resolution, because I myself and Kayla didn't realize that the one that Aitana sent us was a changed resolution. So the one that we had from last week is this one. So this is what it looked like before. And then the new or the resolution in the way that Aitana would like to amend it looks like this. And then there is, I think it's a difference in the highlighted stuff. I think that's where the difference is. Um, the amount and the total. And then I think that Aitana could probably tell us a little bit more about these changes. So, Aitana, would you like to present this resolution?
Or would you just like me to read it all or just talk about the changes?
You're welcome to talk about the changes
All
since
right.
it's so long.
So I've added changes on the whereas part. It's just me explaining my process into why I'm pushing to purchase these items. So whereas purchasing large amounts of merch will help start PRC's advertising efforts for the fall 2021 semester if UIC opens campus, since purchasing merch items is a lengthy process. So that's what I've added. As for the changes on the amount and total, I looked at the form that I sent a while ago. I noticed that some people have not filled it out, so I just added an extra 20 for those who did not fill it out, just to accommodate them. And also, I'm thinking that next semester, what if we hand out apparel items as like an incentive for them to do something or to join us, you know? And I've recalculated the total for the newly added amounts. And if you scroll, I've added the hoodie became 40, the crew neck became 40, the t-shirts became 20. And then if you scroll down, I've added the pop sockets. So I'm thinking about 200 items of pop sockets, and they will amount to 418. So the new items will be 2,250 instead of 2,000 that was in the previous resolution. And the new amount will be 4,436.01 instead of 3,200 something. So it's an additional 1,000 cost.
Okay, thank you, Aitana. Would you like to motion that we amend the old resolution so that it is amended as the new resolution?
Yes, please. I motion to amend the old resolution with this new resolution.
All right, so there has been a motion to amend Resolution 2021-S5-403 so that all of the highlighted things are amended as shown on screen. So all those in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All that oppose, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and then Wasan, you're welcome to pick up. All right, so I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Are there any questions, comments, concerns regarding this resolution?
I just have a quick question for Anshu. For the updated amounts you showed in your report, did that include this resolution?
No, it hasn't passed yet, so I didn't include it.
Okay, cool.
Any other comments or questions? Since we will be voting on this tonight. Okay, any comments, questions, concerns before we move on to voting?
There's a
You guys yes? What's up?
question comments in the chats. So somebody asked, wouldn't this be a little too exorbitant? I do agree that it seems like there's a lot, but if we look at future USG promotional, we have to think about, okay, so what if UIC opens up campus and how can we promote USG other than social media? So having us buy a lot right now will help future USG members promote, since this is also like a 1 semester length process, or even sometimes 2 semester length process.
Any other comments or questions? All right, if there are no comments or questions, we can move on to voting. All those in favor of Resolution 2021-S5-403, please say aye.
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 Sorry. All that opposed, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? All right, this resolution has passed. All right, so the next order of business is new business. So first we have Resolution 2021-S6-1101. Wasan, would you like to present this?
Yeah, thank you. So this is Resolution 2021-S6-1101. It's called the Behavioral Mental Health Crisis Response Team. And it reads, whereas public safety, mental health, and creating diverse student resource pools are key priorities for the undergraduate student government, then let it be resolved that USG endorses the following proposal for a behavioral mental health crisis response team. The last part got cut out. And so essentially the following text is a letter to the committee chairs of the Public Safety Board, who sort of advocate for these sorts of changes to policing with the chancellor, the chief of police, and a whole other host of administrators. And so we start off with like background, and I'll just give you all the highlights. We reference a lot of points from the existing program in Eugene, Oregon called Cahoots, which is a sort of support team assisted response kind of thing, where essentially they have a mix of crisis counselors as well as EMTs available to be able to provide non-police crisis interventions to folks in Eugene, Oregon, as well as in Denver, Colorado, and other cities like that. And so we're essentially talking about a sort of like new paradigm for police intervention and interaction with both students, faculty, staff members, as well as like members of the community at large. And so what we're calling for is something that is sort of like in lieu of like sending like police to a lot of these sort of incidences. We talk a little bit about like further background here, and then I'll just jump right into like what we're exactly asking for. But we're asking for someone to be able to serve as like a liaison who's like located at like UI Health and available to provide 24/7 behavioral health services, both with like a crisis counselor who might be able to assist with like transfer and like evaluation of somebody who might be going through an incident which needs behavioral health support, as well as like EMTs who might be able to provide like Narcan or other sorts of emergency care for a student who may be going through an opioid overdose, amongst other issues. With a set number of responsibilities, like talking about like different calls that they might respond to, everything from welfare checks to transportation to like social and medical services to suspected behavioral or mental health issues, as well as things like death notices, social service resources, essentially kind of pointing people to resources that might be able to help them out, doing things like facilitating hospital transfers, as well as other sorts of like mental health resources and policing resources, and recommending care as well as referrals for individuals in the community who might need them. We're looking specifically for folks who might have like a master's degree, who's like licensed to practice in the state of Illinois. And this is essentially like two graphics. I actually made this graphic myself, which is why it's not the greatest. But it's like essentially explaining like the sort of workflow behind a project like this and what might happen if somebody needed access to help like this. So if there's like a crisis, like essentially how you might sort of go about the process of getting assistance like from these mobile crisis workers and what they might do. So just to run through, right? So like in a crisis situation or sort of like wellness or like mental health situation, you could either directly contact this group or it might be through like a call like to 911 or to UICPD specifically, where the sort of resources are then triaged and these crisis workers are dispatched. And it's their role to de-escalate and assess the situation, work towards resolution, and often transport people from one place to another or refer them to other sources of care. So that's it. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion and answer any questions. We're not voting on this today, but you also might be thinking like what exactly I'm asking for from USG, but particularly I'm looking for feedback, both critical and like positive feedback, if any. And then also, of course, like an endorsement from the organization as a whole.
All right, I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Sarah, do you have a comment?
Yes. First off, I like the proposal. It's pretty cool. But what I do have a question for you is, because of this proposal, what is it that you noticed that wasn't there before? Was it that they just did not have something like this before that you had this proposal? Like, what was it that you observed that you had to go forward with this proposal?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we don't have any service that's like this. We don't have anything that's specific to like the USC student community, as well as just the kind of community at large in the area that we live in, that would kind of fulfill this role. If you had an incident where like somebody might be like a threat of like somebody might be like threatening to commit suicide or something of some other sort of like behavioral crisis that was going on, essentially the first resource that most people would call are either UICPD or the 24/7 sort of crisis hotline. But the crisis hotline is just sort of like a phone number that you can reach. There's nothing that kind of happens beyond that and beyond the sort of conversation that you can have with someone on the line. So oftentimes it's usually UICPD who handles a lot of these calls. And one thing that we definitely know is that both from UICPD, like the police officers' perspectives, but also from the perspectives of people in the community, that's often not the best way to kind of go about handling these situations. Everything from something as simple as a wellness check, right? Where, like you might not have called your mom in the past week and your mom's kind of freaking out, trying to find out where you're at. And they might dispatch a few UICPD officers to your dorm to try and find you. This might be a resource that could handle that instead. Similarly, if somebody might be like drunk and incoherent, sort of like walking around UIC campus, rather than sort of like calling like a police officer on that individual, you might have folks from this group join them. But also, of course, talking about more serious things, like we had previously mentioned, right? Like if somebody had had like an opioid overdose, or if someone had sort of like a mental health crisis or was undergoing like an episode of psychosis or something like that, you might want somebody who's trained in these sort of like de-escalation tactics, and somebody whose entire job is for crisis de-escalation. So that's the kind of the niche that we're trying to fill.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Couldn't the welfare stuff be handled by student volunteers or something?
That's a really good question. Yeah. So we cannot have student volunteers do this because a lot of these situations are often either sort of beyond what you might want a student volunteer to handle, or it might just be something that's like sort of a more dangerous situation. Specifically, like when you're talking about something like somebody who might be going through like an episode of psychosis, like you would definitely want like a licensed trained practitioner to be able to handle and help out the individual through what they're going through. But what you had mentioned specifically about like wellness resources, like we do have like the wellness center as like one of our avenues. And so we'd hope that in cases where somebody just needs a referral to something, these like this sort of like liaison program might be able to help out, get into contact with somebody who could potentially be a student volunteer.
Are there any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to add, like, in terms of when we speak with administration about like overall mental health, like better resources, having something like this is really important because it helps them understand why it is necessary to have kind of like a 24/7 crisis counseling service. And just kind of like going back to the survey data, a lot of people said that something like this would be helpful, and it kind of also convinces them that like right now they have like the 24/7 hotline, but that's not even, it's not actually housed in the counseling center. It's kind of like an outsourced thing. So there is someone at the other end of the phone, but they're not affiliated with UIC. So it would be nice to have a resource kind of grounded at our university. And setting it up in this way has kind of, I guess, proven to be the best way to kind of get both like the crisis counseling and then also just better investment in things that aren't police.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, if there are no more comments or questions, I believe this will be voted on next week, correct? Okay, awesome. So we will vote on this next week. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to bring them up next week. Next we can look at resolution 2021-S6-1102. Wasan, you're welcome to present it.
Yeah, thank you. This is resolution 2021-S6-1102, reducing USG administrative costs. And it reads, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic and transition to online learning have redefined major aspects of the student government, some practices have manifested their obsolescence. And whereas in previous years, USG has allocated $13,000 to fund an annual end-of-the-year gala for USG representatives and guests, Appendix A. This event has been canceled for 2020 and 2021 due to necessary safety measures during the COVID-19 pandemic. This has also demonstrated that an annual USG gala is not a necessary or meaningful use of student funds. The extra planning responsibilities levied upon the USG Vice President also do not represent a meaningful use of time. We recommend in the future that these funds be set aside for emergency student assistance and that the USG Vice President be given the freedom to focus on more student-centric initiatives. Then, let it be resolved that the USG Constitution, Article 4, Section 4.03, Powers and Responsibilities, subsection C, the USG Vice President, be amended to remove the following text. 5. Be responsible for planning the yearly student gala for which an ad hoc committee should be formed no later than the second USG meeting of the spring semester. And Appendix A is a budget breakdown, and I've just highlighted the gala item here at $13,000.
All right, thank you. I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Are there any comments, questions, concerns about this resolution?
I have a question. So this was just like a party that USG threw every year for $13,000, and like the whole school is invited, or like how does that? No.
I can answer that. So I attended the gala of my freshman year, my first year at USG. So basically, what the gala is we end up renting out an entire like one of those like super nice venues where you can go and have like celebrations or like yeah, so we went to one of those, and it was like a huge room, and we had there was a limit to the people who were invited. Everybody in USG was invited. The old administration was invited, the new administration was invited, so there would be like a transfer kind of between the old administration and the new administration. And we it's a really fun night, but not everybody is invited. I From what I remember, we were allowed to bring like 2 or 3 guests each, and then it was only with invitation. And as you guys can probably see, that was really expensive. It was definitely great. I really enjoyed it. I would love to have it again, but it's as as it's written in this resolution, it's very expensive, and it's taking the funds from um from the other organizations and other students. Danny, do you have a comment?
Yes, I think that how the gala was thrown in the past was definitely not the best use of our resources, because as Daisy said, it was just um, like for 500 students or less, and this was a lot of money. If this was not passed and we were to have a gala, we should definitely include, um, we should definitely host a gala that seems more of a homecoming dance for not even, okay, all the students would be a lot, but definitely all the student leaders, like all organizations that are part of the student leaders. Because one of the things that I do want to keep from the gala is that we also had prizes for student, for like our members. So the one that was that created more initiatives or things like that, that I think it's really important to uh, kind of like motivate students to continue in USG. But yeah, I agree that this is not the best use of our funds, at least how it has been planned so far. If it was to be kept, we should definitely write a resolution saying that it should include every single student leader on campus, so we are able to have more of like a honoring or all student leaders on campus.
Oh yeah, Daniela, like I completely agree. And Anshu actually told me that, or I mean, he read it in his report as well, that we are looking to do something at the end of the year that's also sort of kind of inclusive of the fact that we're like in this pandemic and online learning and everything. So we're definitely trying to see if we can still pull something off. Definitely trying to see if we can still do prizes and the whole 9 yards of stuff. But yeah, also agree with what you said about student leaders and inclusivity.
Misty?
Yeah, because we joined around the same time, and so we were able to attend. I agree with them all because obviously it's a great time. It's everyone's having fun, but I think that year when I was in the committee, they were speaking of inviting leaders, but somehow it got really mixed up, and leaders weren't responding. It was just like very uncommunicative. So I think like a good way would be to invite all the leaders and then maybe provide like a I don't know, like I think they even do annual like student organization prizes right now, but you can be like, oh, this was the organization that showed the most philanthropy, and then give them like a monetary prize that would go towards that philanthropy. Like that, I feel like that would be another good way to put their funds to it, to like provide actual prizes in terms of that money. And then I think it was also the location, like obviously Hilton. It's a great time. It's beautiful, but I feel like Illinois room could suffice as well.
Yeah,
But
and on that note, oh, sorry.
oh no, I'm good. That was all it.
Yeah, and on that note, if you got a chance to like go to like one of the CSSLA galas that they have, like they do that in the Illinois room, and it's an amazing event. I mean, they have like a great spread. They got a ton of people. They have speakers, and it's just a fun time overall. You bring your parents too if you want to. So definitely a thought for the future.
So I'd like to add my own thoughts as well. I think the USG Gala is definitely a great event, but I totally agree that it can be more student centered. I agree with like all of the opinions that have said that we should invite student leaders. Maybe instead of calling it the USG Gala, which is very USG centered, we could call it something else like the leadership something, I don't know. And then we could invite all of those student leaders and presidents from other organizations and everybody else. And I think it should be done on campus, so that we spend a lot less money on the venue, because obviously the venue is very expensive. And I think actually that was probably one of our most expensive parts of the gala. Um, but yeah, Daniela.
Yes, I have a few comments. So the first one is I definitely think that this is something that the vice president should not be doing, because the vice president should be, as this resolution states, focusing more of their time in just advocacy work. But I do think that if we are to keep the gala, we should definitely have a position. Um, I know, because we do a committee. Yeah, I'll definitely agree that the vice president should not be. This should not be one of their responsibilities. But if we decide to keep the gala, I think one of we should create a committee for having this gala like really ahead of time. So maybe not the second meeting of the spring semester, but like even when, just as really soon as possible. And my other comment would be, I know that the honors college hosts an annual ball for all the students, and well, for all honors college students. And I know that HCAP, which is the organization that plans this, which is like the USG of the honors college, recently put like a $500 scholarship for all the members to kind of like encourage attendance. And I know that we're not able to give scholarships, but I was wondering if this is part of our um if we could do something similar in a way. I think that would be amazing to not only have student leaders, but also all the applicants that are for like our, if we were to have a scholarship.
All right. I saw that.
Oh, sorry.
Kate. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just quickly respond to that, I would probably just flip your question over to our advisors and see like maybe if Keith or Dre are like have an idea about that.
Yeah, so USG money cannot be used for scholarship or like donations or charities in that way. But we can look at other ways that's in relations to USG as far as like advocacy and keeping in line with our mission of maybe creating a program or something along those lines. But we cannot give out student fee money to students in terms of utilizing it in a form of scholarship.
Okay. Kayla?
Yeah, so just for a matter of this resolution, do we know what we're changing it to yet, or is that why we're discussing?
I'll be honest, like my goal was to remove this entirely from the Constitution, because I'm not sure if like that necessarily needs to be one of the enumerated powers and responsibilities of the vice president. I think that, again, just like looking at like what like Hannah's been able to do this year, like I think there's like a lot you can do like as USG vice president. And so I think that either we could rewrite this into something into the bylaws. That's definitely an option. But I personally didn't really have any plans to do something like that, but I'm happy to entertain it.
How would you guys feel about rewriting this so it's more, leadership student centered rather than USG centered? Like the way that we've been talking about having like a leadership event where, I mean, I think it would be great if we still had like awards, which is what we did during the gala. But in the gala, the awards were pretty much just within USG. So if we had awards for, I don't know, leadership awards where this is the committee that, or this is the organization that did the most advocacy work, or this is the organization that did something else. But it could be just pretty much more student centered rather than just USG centered. How would you guys feel about rewriting this resolution instead of just entirely removing the gala? Quentin?
I don't hate that idea. I think that it could be really, really good to have all of the organizations to use the event to also let organizations know what USG can do for everyone else. Because I think that's something missing that we don't like. There's just no opportunity for that. Like it's not even like our at other schools, organizations are required to come to the student government to like ask to be an org. We don't have that here. So like an opportunity for us to show that we exist and like explain what we can do for people and how we can help them, I think would be really positive. I don't know if it needs to be like this kind of thing, but I think that it could be great.
Ian?
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need to rewrite this specific resolution because I think this is like something different. Yes, mentioning the gala, but it's specifically about the vice president's role in the gala. So it could just be a separate resolution on revising the gala, which is like, I don't know, shouldn't another resolution be passed to even like get funds for another gala?
So
Daisy?
that would, oh, sorry.
Or wasn't sure.
If I'm not wrong, that would just be part of the budget at the beginning of the year. But actually, I'll just, since you asked Daisy, I'll just let Daisy answer that.
No, I'm sorry. That's not like, oh my gosh.
Oh no, because I
But,
don't like know
I'm
the
just-
answer is why.
I think Ashley would be better suited to answer this about the budget.
Yeah, so last year, when the budget was passed, the gala was included in the past budget, but I didn't include it in our budget this year. So if we were to
Yeah.
do another gala, yeah, we would need like another resolution for the funds and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I don't think we need to worry about like having a gala or anything, but I do think that yes, like having it moved to maybe a committee chair or maybe someone who would be assigned that role during the time of the gala would be helpful. And another thing is that I agree with Quentin about what he said, like giving out awards to organizations. I don't think it should be like USG's responsibility, but I do think it would be a great way of transforming the gala to something more inclusive of student orgs, sorry, and networking, like a opportunity of networking.
Daniela?
I completely agree, and this is an idea that the new administration could also consider, but I'm just bringing it up because if not, I will forget. We could also add a new committee that is only focused, that is like the USG Gala committee, which is something that, for example, HCAP, the Honors College USG, has. So they have different committees, and they have one committee especially created to planning the gala. So they make sure that every week they're working on the gala, which I think if we really want to do this event that is like as big and then we get like as many student leaders as possible, I think this is something that the new president could definitely consider.
So, wouldn't that be, if we had, I don't know if we should make an entirely new committee on it. Um, but I think, what if we were to give it to one of our existing committees? So, for example, Campus Life is the committee that deals with like Campus Matters, or we could potentially send that to Student Life, which is about student events and stuff, instead of having an entirely new committee. But how do you guys feel about that?
Hi. I think that it would be best to make it, sorry, Kayla, you raised your hand correctly. But I think that it would be best to have like not necessarily a formal separate committee, because I don't think that makes sense for like one event, but to have like people join into a committee of like everyone in USG could join this like kind of committee to be a part of making the gala happen or whatever it ends up being. I think would be a better way to do that.
Sorry, Kayla, did you have a comment?
No, actually, I agree because I was just thinking like there are some people that aren't on that committee that may want to work on this, or some people that aren't on that committee that do want that, or the reverse. But yeah.
Okay, Matt?
Yeah, I think it could be like a second semester thing that USG could do. So like next, obviously we're not doing it this year, but next spring if this were to be a thing, we would have like, we'd maybe like identify committees, pre-existing committees, right? That have like the resources to maybe aid this, like a student affairs, a treasury, obviously for spending, things like that. Figure out what pieces we need to put in, and then get volunteers from those committees and just open it up to like the general body as well, and then form that committee as the date approaches, as opposed to having just one committee that works on it throughout the year.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And as a reminder, this will be voted on next week. So if you guys have any additional questions, they could definitely be brought up next week. But anything else before we move on?
Oh, so actually, I have one more question.
Go for it.
Sorry. So if we were to do this thing with like all student leaders, would we then be also asking members from other student-led organizations to aid in this committee, or would this be like a USG hosted event for student leaders?
It's a good question. I'll be honest, I think most of us don't have all the answers now just because this is something that we have just really kind of started talking about today. But I'll sleep on it. Hopefully everyone else can also sleep on it for a week, and then we can circle back to it next week, talk about it, if that's okay. Sorry for a non-answer.
Okay. Any other last questions before we move on? Okay. In that case, we can move on to Resolution 2021-S6-1103.
Just wanted to mention that I will be using executive order to vote on this tonight. So just wanted to put that out there beforehand. But this is Resolution 2021-S6-1103, which is in support of the 2/20/21 statement by Black student leaders at UIC. And it reads, whereas the Black Graduate Student Association, Black Law Student Association, African Student Council, and Black Student Union presented a letter to Chancellor Emeritus at the African American Advisory Council Town Hall on February 20th, 2021. The letter aims to hold administrators accountable for failing to achieve demands listed in this summer's student demands letter. A link to the letter can be found here. The full text can also be found in Appendix A. Then let it be resolved that USG supports the call of these activists in pushing for a more equitable UIC campus, which fulfills the needs and enriches the lives of our Black students, staff, and faculty. And I will just go through some of the main points of this letter. But essentially, they talk about the student demands letter from the summer, as well as like some of the sort of committees and the sort of like pontification and sort of stuff that's like been going on within the UIC administration. And specifically, like it calls out things like a very like strong lack of Black student representation on this campus, despite the fact that the city has a large Black population. It calls out things like funding for like what they say is like very high funding for the UIC Police Department. It also calls out like a very recent incident that happened over winter break of a professor in the UIC Law School who like used a pretty like racist final exam question. It kind of also sorry, there were other points that I wanted to make sure to talk about. So then it also like goes back and calls for very specific things like from the administrators, like calls for financial investment and kind of a very strong focus on diversity that's rooted in student demands, especially. So that's kind of like some of the highlights of this. I can read parts of this if anybody would like me to read this letter. But the reason that I'm asking for us to vote on this tonight is because this letter is being sent out tomorrow. And so I would very much like USG to sign on. There's also a link here if you'd like to sign on to it yourself independently.
Okay, I'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this resolution? And then Wasan, if you could also post the link in the chat, would be great.
Yes. Thanks.
Any comments, questions?
I do have a question. So this is a letter written by the by a different organization, the Black Graduate Student Association.
Yeah, it's co-signed by 4 organizations: the Black Graduate Student Association, Black Law Student Association, African American Student Council, and Black Student Union.
Okay, and they sent this letter already?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Hey, Wasan, I have a question. So I just
Yeah.
opened the link and it's not really giving me the option to add anything to it.
The link should have like another link, if that makes sense. Like there should be a thing that says like sign here.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
All right,
Because
thank you.
rather than use Change, you can use Google Docs, and they have like a kind of publish feature, and it's much better than Change.org, but it's a little harder to get signatures on.
I see. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I do. So it says in the link, it says sign the statement as a group / organization.
Yes.
So if we pass this resolution, you're gonna sign it on behalf of the single. Okay.
Yep, that's the plan.
Any comments or questions? As a reminder, this will be voted on tonight.
Hi. I have a
Yeah.
just a general question for everyone. For everyone here, have you guys had the chance to read the whole letter in its entirety? At least take a look at the entire contents before we vote on it.
I did read through the Juneteenth demand letter, and I believe this is in support of it, Watson.
Yeah, I'm also happy to read the letter out loud, like from start to finish, if you guys would
But this-
think that's helpful.
I just honestly don't think you have to, because I think it's the responsibility of every USG member to look through the packet before the meeting and like make sure you know what we're talking about before you come to the meeting. So
Yeah, thank you, Bayan, for bringing that up. Actually, you guys, representatives and cabinet members are, you guys should be looking at the packet before you come to the meetings. That's the reason why I sent it out on Sunday. So please make sure you're looking at these things before you come to the meetings. But maybe Wasan, if you could just quickly summarize it, would be better than reading it.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I guess I cheated a little bit as well because I've put a lot of material in the appendix, and I don't have to read the appendix, but I do have to read the body text of the resolution. So yeah, like I mentioned before, this is again a resolution that's further calling out the administration for failure to meet some of the demands listed in the Juneteenth demand letter. They look at specifically kind of like speeding up the process with which we would want to see a greater financial commitment towards diversity, rather than just sort of like looking at a lot of like the pontification that's happened in these committees, kind of focusing again on the fact that there's a very small representation of Black students on this campus, looking at some of like the funding for like the police department, looking at like the lack of funding for like cultural centers, looking at specifically also in response to an event that occurred in the law school that was pretty racist by a professor who like used like the N-word in like a final exam test question. And so it's essentially also like signing on in support of like calling for that professor to be to like face some sort of penalties. Beyond that, again, like we just sort of like, again, like are like asking for a very stringent financial commitment, as well as like a strong commitment to actually seeing the demands met through, rather than sort of just looking at like hiring of more administrators, which might seem like a good idea in some cases, but in my opinion, really kind of just furthers more bureaucracy on this campus.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Wasan?
Yeah, so I'm going to use an executive order to move that resolution 2021-S6-1103 be voted on tonight.
All right, so there has been an executive order, so we will be voting on this resolution tonight. All those in favor of resolution 2021-S6-1103, please say aye.
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 All that oppose, please say nay. Does anybody abstain? All right, the ayes have it. This resolution has passed. Next, we have resolution 2021-S6-1104. And then Wasan or Hannah, would you guys like to read that?
This is the last one for me, I promise. And I'm also using the executive order on this to vote on this tonight as well, because we also would like to have this one like ready as soon as possible so that we can send it on to like Senate committees and folks who would further kind of debate this. But Resolution 2021-S6-1104 is Student Mental Health Days. And it's chief sponsored by myself as well as Vice President Hannah. And it reads, whereas numerous universities around the world have adopted the concept of a reading week or reading period, which is a set period of time before final exams during which classes, examinations, and assignments are canceled. Across the US, several universities have implemented this with varying lengths of time, from 1 week at Harvard and Northwestern to several days at the University of Chicago and the University of Tulsa to 1 day at UIUC and the University of Arizona. Proponents of these initiatives claim that this gives students an opportunity to prepare for final exams, catch up on readings and assignments, evaluate your progress through the semester, apply for summer internships, or complete other applications, and further ease the transition to college life for first-year students. This also gives faculty the opportunity to work on any grading or evaluations they must complete before finals. This break facilitates additional time for students and faculty to spend with friends and family and to dedicate to self-care. Ideally, this will improve campus mental health, which is perpetually an area for improvement and especially critical during this pandemic. Detractors may claim that this program may not achieve the goals by not reducing non-academic stress, so interpersonal problems or financial stress, so on and so forth, and be detrimental by allowing for procrastination and reducing class/instruction time. Professors will also need to adjust their syllabi to accommodate this change. This may inadvertently lead to a significant increase in assignments and programs crammed into the first 2 instructional days of the reading period. A study by Poole, Kahn, and Agnew examined Canadian undergraduate students who were granted an additional 1-week-long fall break. Over 1,100 students were surveyed, out of whom 80% viewed the break as positive, 69.1% indicated the break decreased their stress, and 53.6% indicated the break improved their academic performance. Salivary cortisol and dehydroepiandrosterone, DHEA levels were measured, and those who experienced fall break showed a lower cortisol to DHEA ratio, indicating less stress. A study by Kramer and Schiebel reviewed stress and student time usage during the fall reading week in University of Windsor students. They surveyed 177 students over 21 days and found that students who engaged in schoolwork during the fall reading week had significantly less perceived stress after the break, while those who did not saw little change in their perceived stress levels. And whereas at USC, we recommend such an initiative be implemented with no extension to the academic calendar. Further, to waylay some of the concerns listed, we recommend that aggressive programming by the Student Success Units and the Counseling Center on final exam studying, stress management, and career development be offered alongside this. We also recommend that faculty are given adequate time and provided with the tools to best support any changes to their syllabi. Then, let it be resolved that the USG calls for the inclusion of 3 non-instructional reading days at the end of each fall and spring semester before finals. During this period, no student will be required to submit any homework assignments, and no examinations of any type will be administered. In spring 2021, these days will be April 28th, 29th, and 30th. In fall 2021, these days will be December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. From then on, this initiative will exist in perpetuity during the final 3 academic days preceding finals week.
All right, thank you. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this resolution, which will be voted on tonight?
I just wanted to talk about the one part at the end. It was discussion between us when we were essentially putting this together, but the fact that the reading weekdays are for fall semester, like there was that option of like adding the reading days to the week of Thanksgiving break just so that we could have a full Thanksgiving break, or like having it at the very end of the semester, like ideally we would. And so that was like a huge point of discussion. And eventually it was kind of like, okay, it's better that we keep it at the end of the semester, so that the intention is very clear that it is for preparation for finals.
Any comments, questions, or concerns? I guess I have a question. So do you guys know how, like, it obviously says that USG calls for this, but what would happen if, like, is there any way that we could, I guess, get the administration to work with us on this? Because I feel like they would decline, like, straight out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, oh, sorry, Hannah, did you want to answer this one or? Okay. Yeah. So sort of like, sorry, I just saw that you unmuted again. My bad. So sort of like looking back at the beginning of the semester, like we had been talking about something like this with like Provost Poser and like also like with like the Mental Health Coalition and through like the survey responses, as well as with Vice Chancellor Tolliver. And so at like the last meeting that we had with Vice Chancellor Tolliver, he mentioned that this is something that somebody had brought up in the Academic Senate committee that he sits on. And so they were a lot of faculty members who were very much in favor of this. And so it looked like this was a very kind of promising proposal and a sort of promising idea overall with both the current crisis that we're situated in, but also looking at sort of like the future of like UIC in general, right? Like looking at next year and the year after when the pandemic's no longer really a part of our lives. And so it seemed like they were all very much in favor of this right now. And so we wanted to pounce on that energy and move as quickly as possible, which is also why I'm asking for this to be voted on tonight. We wanted to move with that energy, get them a formal proposal that actually lists out exactly what it is that we're asking for so that they don't have to do any extra work on their part. All they have to do is just say yes or no. And it looks like everyone there is saying yes. And so that seems very promising to me.
That's exciting. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we vote on this? All right, Wasan, would you like to motion?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'd like to use an executive order to move that resolution 2021-S6-1104, Student Mental Health Days, be voted on immediately.
All right, so there has been an executive order. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I gotta chat here. So the president has called for an executive order. So we will be voting on this resolution tonight. So all those in favor of resolution 2021-S6-1104, please say aye.
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 All that oppose, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? All right, this resolution has passed. Next, we have resolution 2021-S6-804. So Anshu, would you like to present this?
Yeah, I'm the chief sponsor, and the co-sponsors are Mohammed, Matt, and Megan. Whereas the undergraduate student government has funds allocated for external organizations to help the undergraduate student body, and whereas the Omega Delta fraternity on campus wants to host a blood drive as a philanthropic event in the Illinois room, and whereas Omega Delta fraternity will promote USG's involvement on their blood drive merchandise, and whereas in previous years the annual blood drive collected 30 units, saving up to 90 lives. Let it be resolved that USG will contribute $500 to cover the cost of the Illinois room and $100 to cover half the cost of the merchandise for the event, totaling $600.
All right, I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Anything? As a reminder, this will be voted on next week. All right, if there are no comments, then we can vote on this next week. So for now, we can move on to the next order of business, which is items for discussion. Does anybody have any items for discussion? Okay, if there are no items for discussion, then we can move on to the next order of business, announcements. Does anybody have any announcements?
I have an announcement. So, along with our purchase of the keychains, we are also helping in planting 10 trees to a forest preserve. Well, that's pretty cool.
Awesome, thank you for sharing.
I have an announcement. Sorry, Daisy.
Oh, go ahead, Bam.
The Arab American Culture Center Town Hall, please attend. It'll be tomorrow at 5:30. and the Watson has confirmed that he will be speaking. So imagine hearing Watson speak 2 days in a row. Like, you can't miss that. I'm just kidding. But this is the link to sign up. And yeah, please be there.
Thank you. Anshu, did you have a comment?
Oh yeah. So I know many of you guys are passionate about the gala and kind of the talks about that. I know Wasan brought up as well. I do plan to work on like a Uber Eats voucher towards like the end of the year, so everyone can kind of like get a bite to eat on USG's expense. Historically, we've bought food for every meeting for USG members that are not aware. So if anyone wants to plan an event around the Uber Eats voucher and kind of work on it together, please reach out and I'll be happy to take any ideas.
Awesome, thank you. So I have two announcements. One of them is if you guys, representatives, if you have not signed up for an individual meeting with me, please make sure you do that. Check your email for that. And then the second announcement was, I know that Bayan said that we might need to cut out the talk about money. I don't actually think we need to do that. Technically, the only thing we need to cut out is things that are supposed to be only within USG, which is voting. So when we vote on or when we discuss new members, that's only USG. But I don't think that talking about funding necessarily is confidential. But please let me know if I'm wrong. Like if you can find that in the constitution or bylaws, please do let me know. Um, any other announcements?
Yes, I do have an announcement. So yes, I just put in the chat our kind of our sign up form for the events we have going on for textbook affordability. So yeah, if you want to help out, just take a look and see if you can make it to any of the events, and if you would like to join in on that, yeah, sign up and we'll contact you. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
I do have one. I wanted to tell everyone that SAB is hosting this pretty cool event that I love, that is the cyber hypnosis experience. And I promote it just because it's like really different. And I learned that they're gonna be like actually hypnotizing people through Zoom. And you can be one of those people. So just DM SAB if you want to be hypnotized. Like who doesn't want to be hypnotized, right? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
When is that event about hypnotization?
It's tomorrow. I'll send you the information. I'll post it on the chat.
Thank you.
All right, any other announcements? All right, if there are no more announcements, then we can move on to the next order of business, which is adjournment. Would anyone like to motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there has been a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? That was like 2 people. That's okay. Make sure you guys participate, please. So the ayes have it, and the meeting is now adjourned at 8:36 p.m.